What are you discovering for yourself? What breakthroughs are you having? What, if anything, are you struggling with? So, John, who do you want to hear from?
Well, let's hear from somebody that wants to share from one of these areas. There were quite a few things Brian reminded you of. We're really interested. What are you discovering? What breakthroughs are you having? What, if anything, you're struggling with? Who would like to share? Just come off mute and go ahead.
I was Jerome Kenora. I was actually talking to my daughter yesterday, and exams are coming up, and she's a real procrastinator, and she struggled last year, the year before. So I'm trying to get her to be on, I guess, on the court to say, you know what, be focused, plan your days out better, and right, 2 or 3 weeks left in the school year, just focus on what needs to be done and get it going. So, so I was kind of trying to talk about, being proactive, identifying your issues, and moving on. So that was something I kind of thought was kind of tied into this kind of course we're doing. Her joke back to me though, she said, "No, what, Dad, I'm going to put a note on my computer screen. The note's going to say, what would Dad be doing right now?" That was her response back. But at least she's identified it's an issue for her in the past, and hopefully she acts on it better this year.
That's great. Sorry, who's that?
This is Janice from Kenora. Nicole and I and Shelley in our office were having a meeting yesterday, and there was this topic that we've been discussing for months, saying, should we do something this way or should we do something this way? And at the end of the meeting, we scheduled it for Monday, and we have to do a little more research. And Nicole had said, our objective by the end of that meeting on Monday is we're going to have a decision whether we're going to do it this way or this way. And it was just like fantastic. We're going to be able to research and put this to bed once and for all. And it felt great to say that, this is what we're going to do, and this is at the end of the meeting, that's what we're going to have.
So enough being in the stands and you're on the court. Way to go, Janice. Way to go, everybody in Kenora. That was great. That's excellent.
That was definitely Nicole. She was like, we are going to do this. I was like, absolutely.
Way to go, Nicole. Good for you. Anything anybody has been struggling with? Any of those distinctions that we talked about that it's just not working, or you've got an issue where you're coming up against something? No? Come on. You're all perfect. Well, then let's hear from somebody else that's had a success.
Okay, from Dryden, we have a struggle.
Okay.
So prior to this last month or so, we've been doing well and working on the authentic listening, and it's been putting us on the court with the brokers a lot more, which is great. But this last month, we have challenges with a couple of companies with claims and how they're handling them, and then we also have like a ridiculous amount of May renewals that come in for the Dryden office. And we're just finding that this last month or so that we're not finding the time or making the time to do what we should be with what we're learning.
Okay, so when you say that, you've got the issues with the companies, that's just what's happening. So what specifically is going on? Like, what are you doing where you're not authentically listening? I mean, what's in the way of that? Give me a specific example, like get it really on the court. You were talking to someone at Wawanesa about, what happened?
Well, I guess an example would be talking to a broker. If they come into the office, we've been working really hard on stopping what you're doing, giving their full attention, and then carrying on after they're done, really listening to what they're saying. But like we said, this last month has been a challenge to, when you have more than one person coming in and you can't seem to get to what you need to get done, it's tough to give the authentic listening on a regular basis.
You think so because you're time crunched.
Yeah.
The time to spend. Well, does it have to take a long time? I mean, listening doesn't mean you have to hear their stories forever. If you're really listening authentically, you get what they want, and then you can play it back to them and say, is this what you're asking for? And that can end the conversation pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Right? You see what I mean? Authentically listening doesn't mean you just have to sit there and listen forever. It means to listen for what's really there for somebody. And once you hear that, you can say, okay, well, let me just check in with you and see if I've got this right. And then you repeat it. And if they say, yeah, that's right, then you can move on. you don't have to just wait. Does that resonate with you? Do you see what I'm getting at, or is that answering the question?
But sometimes what they're looking for doesn't come right away.
Yeah, well, then you don't really have much option, do you? You have to keep listening.
Mhm.
What do you see as it? So where do you see it breaking down? I mean, if you're sitting with someone, you know you've got a lot to do, and you have to listen to them to be able to find out whatever it is their issue is, right? So that you can deal with it. So I'm still not really clear. I mean, it's just your time crunch, but you can't throw somebody out of the office before you know what they want. So you must still be listening to them, right?
Yeah. I think we're just having to be more to the point, or saying, I have to get back to this company, so let me know what it is you're looking for. And, with the listening, we've been trying to not be so blunt, or, and give more time to listen to them. But now that we're getting again, we're finding it harder to do what we were doing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, when you've got time pressure, it is more difficult, and you can still be authentic with people. I mean, even saying to people, look, we really need to get on to the next piece here, or whatever, Sorry. Brian, did you want to say something?
Kelly, what do you see? First of all, appreciate you bringing something that you're struggling with. And if you look at it now, given what we've represenced here with these key distinctions, whether it's being present or context or on the court or accountability, responsibility, or authentic listening, if you take a new look now, Kelly, can you see something that may be missing? Not what's wrong. Can you see something that may be missing regarding what you've been struggling with?
You mean something missing from when we're struggling that could maybe help fix it, you mean?
Yeah, and again, it's all of our words give us a sense of how the situation is showing up for you, how it's occurring for you. So if it occurs, when I hear fix something, that leaves me with it seems to you, and let me check this out. Does it appear to you that it shouldn't be this way, or that something's wrong?
No, it doesn't appear that it shouldn't be that way, or that it's wrong. I think maybe looking at that, we are more in the stands talking to people than on the court.
Very good.
Here.
That's great. That's great. So how can you make it real for us? Because I'm clear it's clear for you. What does in the stands look like, and what would it look like in that situation to bring being on the court?
Well, in the stands is not authentically listening and maybe multitasking while you're talking to them. And on the court would be maybe just getting more to the point and letting them know, okay, you have a few things you got to get done. So what is it that you're looking for?
Brilliant. Now I hear that you have an access now to deal with an area that you've been struggling with. So what I would offer, because you discovered that, maybe you knew that before you brought this up, I don't know. Now
I think we just don't, you're trying to be considerate to people and let them speak instead of cutting them off and saying, sorry, we don't have time for that, because you don't want them to always feel like you don't have time for them either.
Yeah, that's right. So how could you say it to me if I'm one of those people without making me feel you're cutting me off and you're being on the court? Just practice with me. How would you say it to me?
That I'm available to help, but you'll have to give me the cold notes because I have whatever I have to do next.
Okay. Now, in terms of you being out here with me and having your attention on being customer centric with me as a customer, was that a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, or was that a 5, or was that a 1?
Are you saying being a customer? I'd never say that to a customer. I'm talking about brokers like coming into the office.
Oh, okay, I got it. So, okay, great. Is that something? Have you said that to a broker before?
No, that's what I said, we're having a hard time, that's what we're struggling with.
Okay.
And we do tell them sometimes that they will, like, if they ask if we're free, we say we need a few minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can hear that, that you're hearing what's missing as being, my words, not yours, being direct. Give me the Coles notes. Practice that and let us know what happens. Anything else, Kelly?
No, anything else? No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Somebody else? What are you discovering for yourself, or what breakthroughs are you having, or what, if anything, are you struggling with?
I just have one more breakthrough. It's Janice again.
Yeah.
So I've been dealing with a problem claim, and I had an underwriter call me last night, or a manager call me last night at home, and she was, so I was making dinner. I stopped making dinner. I signaled for my husband. He came in. I sat down in another room, gave her my full attention. And so she was giving me sort of excuses as to why the claim was going the way it was. And so I let her talk. And at the end, and I said, okay, so this is what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call this third party, find out exactly what's going on. And I expect a phone call first thing in the morning. And she said, oh, absolutely. Whereas, you know, before this started, I would have said, okay, will you let me know as soon as you know what's going on? But I said, I expect to hear from you tomorrow morning. And she was like, oh, absolutely.
Awesome. That's great, Janet.
Yeah, mind if she didn't call me this morning, but so I did my part.
All right. All right. Okay, good. All right. Great, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Kelly, thanks for bringing that right to us, and Janice. And I missed, who was the first person that shared in Kenora?
Jerome.
Jerome. Thanks, Jerome. Okay, thank you. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to keep moving forward. And this is all going to be in the background. Everything we've been working with you on, and we're going to continue to expand it. So where we are in our engagement and where we're going. So you may recall that at our very first session together last November, we said you're about to embark on a journey of discovery. And like most journeys, there will be the inevitable highs and lows, and twists and turns. We went on to make the point that the way in which this type of organization-wide engagement is designed, you will easily identify and deal with ways you're currently being in the world that you've struggled with or put up with, or that would be an obstacle to your realizing the future that you will have created for yourself in Standard Insurance. And we made it clear that John and our main focus in working with you is to impact performance, which ultimately produces business results. Given that we're out to impact performance, and what we said performance is actions or non-actions, given that we're out to impact performance, our access is to discover what's not working or not working as well as it could, and then deal with it. The key distinction we will use today to discover what's not working or not working as well as it could is the distinction integrity. So when we were last together on January 15th, we introduced you to the distinction integrity. We said that it's one of the 4 foundational factors of leadership. There's the distinction being authentic. There's the distinction, and we've coached you on authentic listening. There's the distinction being committed to something bigger than oneself. And John's been working with a group on the strategy, and that's a separate group that's having meetings, and they've got another webinar coming up. We'll give you the date again at the end of this call. And then we have the distinction being responsible. And when we were together last, we coached you on what it is to be responsible. And in this conversation, we're coaching you on being a person of integrity, being whole and complete. So what to expect? We said this with you when we were together in Kenora. I'm saying it again right now. What to expect in this conversation? This may get a little messy. This may not fit what you already think or believe. This may provoke a response you do not expect. Okay, now how's that? You ready to go? After I've scared you off, or have I scared you off from having this conversation? Okay, well, here we go. So I want everyone to take a moment and literally make a note for the balance of the conversation we're having with you on integrity. Bring to mind an on the court area of your life where you're not at full power, or you don't have peace of mind, or where you lack freedom to be yourself, or an area where you're struggling. Now, Kelly was already generous enough. She brought, she gave us a real on the court example, with the authentic listening, with the brokers. I'm going to pause for a moment and everyone think of something, an area where you're not at full power. There might be something on your mind. You don't have peace of mind. And here are some areas you can look to. There could be something you said you're out to accomplish by being in this engagement. Or it could be something with your career or with work. Or it could be in the area of health and well-being. Could be something with your family. So make notes regarding your integrity as we go through these next several slides. So let me just pause right here, and I'd like to hear from people, especially people that haven't spoken up yet. Just say what the area is that you're noting as we go through this conversation. Who will say the area, please? How about somebody in Winnipeg?
Hi, it's Cleo. My health and well-being.
Great, Cleo. Thank you. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I know Cleo's on the court. She's taking on her health and well-being. Okay. Lisa, would you be willing to share your area?
I decided on health and well-being as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. One more person.
Hi, it's Lori. Your family.
Okay, great, Lori. Thank you. Okay, good. All right, so as we go through these conversations, these slides, I don't want it to be just an in the stands conversation. So bring whatever area and make it as specific as possible. You don't have to say it out loud, but make it as specific as possible, please. And be prepared to share what you're discovering. We'll check in at toward the end of this conversation. All right, so integrity, we said, is the state or condition of being whole, complete, unbroken, unimpaired, sound, perfect condition. And we said that there's an inherited notion of integrity. So there's an already always listening of integrity, or that integrity means sincerity, or integrity means morality, or ethics, or legality. And integrity, the already always listening, how most people relate to integrity is it's consistent with being right, or I'm justified, or dominating. So we don't mean integrity from there. We don't mean that you're good if you have integrity and you're bad if you don't. We don't mean that. We're saying that integrity is a created distinction. And as we're coaching you, we're creating that integrity is honoring your word. Integrity is being whole and complete. This is a water glass. It's designed to hold liquid. It's whole and complete. If it had a chip in it, I still could put water in it, but the integrity of the glass would not be whole and complete because it would have a chip in it. So we're looking at you as a human being being whole and complete, missing nothing. So integrity, we worked with you. We showed you this example of a bicycle wheel. We said, bicycle wheels got spokes, and my recreational bicycle that's in the garage, I don't really pay attention that every spoke is tightened and the wheel pressure, certain PSIs, like my friend Ian, who races cross country and has gone to Europe and done races. Every spoke on his wheel is tightened. But we say without integrity, nothing works. So if you look at the human being being whole and complete, if one spoke is out, the wheel will still turn, but the integrity of the wheel, the workability of the wheel has been diminished. Another spoke goes out, the wheel still might turn, but it'll be more wobbly. So we're saying as we go through here, look to see if all your spokes, all the areas of your life that are important to you, are that, one, it could be health and well-being. Another area of your life you could be looking at is work and career, family, home, finances, friends, education, community. And you can add as many, or you can take as many of these away and make it appropriate for you. We're saying if one is out, your health and well-being is out because you're focusing on work, but man, that work's focused tight. We're saying that the integrity of you as a whole is out, is incomplete, because one spoke is loose or out. We're not saying it's bad. We're talking about what works, what has things work. Without integrity, nothing works. So John's going to generate the law of integrity to represent that for us.
The law of integrity. The law of integrity states, as integrity, being whole and complete, declines, workability declines. And as workability declines, value, or more generally, the opportunity for performance declines. Thus, the maximization of whatever performance measure you choose requires integrity. Violating the law of integrity generates painful consequences just as surely as violating the law of gravity. Put simply, and somewhat overstated, without integrity, nothing works. Think of this as a context for performance. If you and your organization operate inside this context, performance will increase dramatically.
Okay, so maybe you can start to hear now how the different distinctions we've been working with you connect. Context is decisive. Context of number, this is 2. Context of universal symbol, this is peace. This last sentence here, the last 2 is think of this as a context for performance. Think of integrity as the context for the actions people take or the actions people don't take. If you and Standard Insurance operate inside this context, performance will increase dramatically. If you operate inside the context that without integrity, nothing works, honoring oneself as one's word, your performance will increase dramatically. So we're saying our access is to look and discover what's not working. We're clear, there's a lot working with you. There's a lot working with Standard Insurance. We're operating with you as if you're Olympic athletes. We're looking at taking a couple of tenths of seconds off your time. And we're after an impact on performance. Our access to find what's not working and deal with it. That's why I love that Kelly stepped up and she shared an area that they're struggling with. So we want to look at what's not working, and we want to give you an access to deal with the what's not working. And how we deal with what's not working is bringing and restoring integrity. So this model shows here again integrity. As integrity declines, the spoke on the wheel declines, workability declines. As workability declines, the opportunity for performance declines. And performance, make no mistake, it's not how you feel about someone, it's not your opinion about someone, it's the action or non-action that they're taking. So we're looking for unworkability. So what does unworkability look like? When things are not working or they've stopped working, what does that look like? What does that look like in your personal life? What does that look like on your team? What does that look like in your organization? So who will say, just give us an example, when things have stopped working, what does that look like on the court? Who will give us another on the court example, please?
Great. Sorry, a good example of what we've seen is even within the teams, within the teams, if they're not having their weekly meeting, how things can, fall apart because they're not having that opportunity to all communicate together. Mm-hmm. And so we see when those weekly meetings and communication isn't maintained, that it has effects on the entire team, and how just simply meeting again on a more regular basis solves all those issues. And a lot of times there's just misunderstanding. But as soon as that component of communication is out of the mix, and it can be missing the weekly meetings for 1 month because we oh, it's too busy and we don't get together. You know, just as a even check in with, and say, the personal lines team. I remember Donna Sandelli saying, you know, yeah, it's just kind of everyone's out of control and grouchy and at each other's throats, and, you know, and Dryden at one point. And so I'm just going to talk about it with the team and make sure. And so we touched base again, and she solved it. And she said it was just talking again and making sure to touch base weekly and check in with people. So it was just, you know, even though that's only a 15-20 minute meeting at times, how valuable it was, and how simply not having it broke up the communication. And you know, that's an office that's normally very functional and get along well. And just even that little step of those weekly check-ins to talk about workflow and who's doing what and how things are going was amazing to me.
That's great, Gord. Thank you. Yeah. So everyone, if you haven't, you know, just like Gord just shared, right, we just take a moment and make a notation to yourself. When things are not working or they've stopped working, what does that actually look like? Just bring that to mind, okay, as we continue in the conversation. Okay. All right. So go ahead, John, please.
Yes, being a person of integrity creates power. Each time you dishonor your word to yourself or others, you get smaller. Life gets more confined, and you become a less powerful entity. The less you're whole and complete out of integrity, the more fascinated you'll become with your internal state, looking for reasons and justifications to explain the unworkability.
Yeah, so that's really critical. Just look, every time you dishonor your word to yourself, I'm going to go work out today. I don't work out. I'm going to get that report done today. I don't get that report done. I told that person to call me tomorrow and they didn't call me. You know, maybe I should call them back. Every time you dishonor your word to yourself or to others, you get smaller. Just look at your own experience, and life gets more confined, and you become less powerful entity. And the less you are whole and complete, or out of integrity, the more fascinated you'll become with your internal state. What do we mean by internal state? The more fascinated you'll be with your thoughts. The more fascinated you'll be with your feelings, the more fascinated and more attention you'll give to your emotions and what's going on with your body. You'll stop yourself from being out here on the court because you'll give the attention over here to what's going on with you internally. You'll hear yourself, or you'll see yourself coming up with justifications, coming up with reasons to explain why something is not working. Go ahead, John.
The more fascinated you are with your internal state, the more your brain will dynamically revise your past consistent with that view, and the more your ways of being and acting will match up with the past. To be whole and complete as a person requires that you take on a regular practice of cleaning up your integrity in both the physical realm and the relationship realm.
So again, bicycle wheel, without integrity, nothing works.
I'm not sure what that second last paragraph actually, I'm not quite sure what that meant.
Thanks, Eleanor. Let me expand on it. So the more fascinated you are with your internal state, the more fascinated you are with what's going on with your body, your thoughts, your memories, the more your brain will dynamically revise your past. So the more your brain will tell yourself that, oh, the reason I'm not getting that report done on time, even though I said that I was going to get it done when I was in the meeting last week, the reason I'm not doing it is because that person didn't do it the previous 4 times, or because the system is not set up on the computer right. Your brain automatically will do things and create new brain patterns. We haven't gotten into the brain and neuroscience yet. We'll do that at our next session. But they're automatically, you will start to create reasons why what happened in the past will be consistent with you giving some credence to your thoughts, your memories, what's going on with you internally. Is that helpful, Eleanor? Is that cleared up, or?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, it's we're going to say more about neuroscience in the brain when we're together next time. So that's why we have that in here now. Thank you for making that catch and asking. Okay. All right. So what is integrity for a person? John?
What is integrity for a person? Integrity for a person is a matter of the person's word, nothing more, nothing less. For a person to have integrity, the word of that person must be, as integrity is defined in the dictionary, whole, complete, unbroken, unimpaired, sound, perfect condition. The question is, in the matter of integrity, what constitutes your word?
Okay, so we're going to review what we said, what your word is defined.
Integrity, your word defined. Number one, what you said. Whatever you've said you'll do or will not do, and in the case of doing it on time. No requests of you become your word unless you've responded to them in a timely fashion. Number two, what you know. Whatever you know to do or know not to do, and in the case of doing it as you know it is meant to be done and doing it on time, unless you've explicitly said to the contrary.
Okay, now before we move on, is there anything unclear? There's what your word is, we're defining it, and there's 6 aspects of what your word is. First one is usually pretty easy for people to get. I said I'd do X. So whenever I said I would do X, whenever I said I'll get that report, that's what I said, that's my word. And then there's also what I know to do. So number 2 is what I know to do. Whatever I know to do or know not to do, and in the case of doing it as I know it was meant to be done and doing it on time unless I've explicitly said to the contrary. So word 2 is, I said I would get the report to you by Friday at noon. Now, as soon as my computer broke down, and as soon as my printer broke down, what I know to do is to actually communicate to you. Or what I know to do is get my computer fixed. I know to do that. I mean, it's pretty simple. But is there anything, as we go through here, stop us if there's anything that's unclear about any of these words, okay? And number 3?
Number 3, what is expected? Whatever you're expected to do or not do, even when not explicitly expressed, and in the case of doing it on time, unless you have explicitly said to the contrary.
All right, we expect you're going to do whatever it takes to open your store on time. If there's a power failure, you're going to do whatever you need to do to communicate that you're not going to open it on time if there's something beyond your control like that.
Note, your expectation of others are not for you the word of others. You must make your expectations explicit in the form of a request.
Yeah, now you can't expect someone else to do something unless you request it of them and they say, yes, they'll do it, or no, they won't. You can't just keep it to yourself and say, hey, their integrity's out. Okay, and then number 4?
Number 4, what you say is so. Whenever you've given your word to others as to the existence of something or some state of the world, your word includes being willing to be held accountable that the others would find your evidence for what you've asserted also makes what you have asserted valid for themselves.
Yeah, what I say is so is we've got the best branch in our entire geographic region. So if I say that, I've given my word to that, and I can stand by that. I'm actually saying this is what's so. Or what I say is so is this person is going to be groomed to be the next so-and-so. Or what I say is so is we deliver the best policies that are available to our customers. We do get it done better than anybody else. We get it done more efficiently than anybody else. That's what I say is so. Number 5?
Number 5, standing for something. What you stand for, that is what you say that your life is about, and for what you can unquestionably be counted on, whether expressed in the form of a declaration made to one or more people, or even to yourself, as well as what you would allow people to believe that you stand for, is a part of your word.
Yeah, so I'm standing for my family always knows that they're loved and cared for, no matter what. What I'm standing for is that that Standard Insurance is viewed as the best in the entire world. You're standing for it as a matter of your word. And number 6?
Number 6, moral, ethical, and legal standards. The moral, ethical, and legal standards which you have not explicitly declined are a part of your word.
Yeah. So I shared this with you when we were together. I have my driver's license. When I got my license to drive, I signed it and I gave my word that I'd obey all the traffic laws. And when I go a kilometer over, I've broken my word. I'm not a bad person. I'm not wrong. What so is my integrity's out because I promised I would obey all laws, and then I went over by a kilometer. Okay. So in summary, what we're saying here, integrity is what you said, what you know, what's expected, what you say is so, standing for something, moral, ethical, and legal standards. Any questions about what one's word is? Anything unclear about that for anyone? Okay. And then integrity is honoring, go ahead, John, sorry.
Yeah, integrity is honoring your word, and honoring your word is 1, keeping your word and on time, or 2, whenever you will not be keeping your word, just as soon as you become aware that you will not be keeping your word, including not keeping your word on time, saying to everyone impacted that you will not be keeping your word and that you will keep your word in the future and by when, or that you won't be keeping your word, that word at all, and what you will do to deal with the impact on others of the failure to keep your word or to keep it on time.
Okay, so we already defined what your word is, and then integrity we're saying is honoring your word, and honoring your word is these 2 things. Okay, and then when we were together, we wanted to make this real. So Eleanor, just because I can see you on the screen, do you remember this integrity checklist that we handed out? Does this look familiar to you? Okay, so what this is, and we can, John can send this out again if you want some more, if you need another copy of it, everyone. But we gave you the checklist, and it's not about the checklist, but we gave you an access to locate areas that are not working or not working as well as you would like. And then look, there's a broken promise there, or there's some broken agreement that's at the source of the unworkability. And we ask you to consider what you said or what you know, what's expected, what you say is so, standing for something, moral, ethical, and legal standards. At the bottom here, we gave you areas you could look at. If you're not at full power in the area of your personal life, you can look at those areas that we've listed there. You can look at work, finances, health. If with your team, you can, if you're not at full power, look at any broken agreements and promises with others on your team, with your manager, with other teams and customers, suppliers, etc. With your organization, look if there's any broken agreements or broken promises with others in the organization. Anything broken with the head office, anything broken with regarding processes. And then we coached you to really make it simple. Take out the in the stand speaking, take out the reasons, take out the stories. The unworkability item is X. Acknowledge the broken promise or agreement where you are, not where they are, where you are. And then without action, no results will happen. So then we gave you an opportunity to note and to promise the actions you're taking to clean up the mess. And then we're coaching you what it takes to restore integrity. So what it takes to bring back the state of wholeness and completion, what it takes to tighten up the spoke, to use the metaphor, is acknowledge the broken promise or agreement. Lisa, I promised you that I would get you that report by Friday at 4. I broke that promise. No story, no explanation, no I feel bad. That's what's so. And discover and be responsible for the impact on all the relevant parties. So Lisa, I want to get, what's the impact on you? And I want to hear from you. Brian, it caused me to miss my deadline with my customer and I had to work all weekend. And then you want to do whatever you need to do to clean up the mess. And then we gave you this as an example that in your speaking, you always want to have a committed speaker. You always want to have a committed listener, be clear who's listening to what you're saying. You want to have a specific action and you want to include a specific date. So I heard it earlier, Janice was sharing about some of the breakthroughs and successes at the top of the call. And I could hear in her example There's a committed speaking there, a committed listener there. There's a specific action there. There's a by when there. Okay. So
And I just want to comment on that. I know personally, you know, when you're talking to a customer and then they need you to respond to them and you say, okay, I will call you back and I'll call you this morning or I'll call you by 11 or whatever word you're giving to them. It's hard to do. It's hard to hang up, get everything done and call them back, let's say by 11. But yet you've given your word. But I think at the same time, by calling them, even with an answer or without the answer, you may not have the answer by that time. I think by responding, I think it's really a good impression to make. So that's my statement anyway.
That's great, Eleanor. Awesome. And Eleanor, I love it because you want to, what I love about what Eleanor is sharing, everybody, is remember we're on a journey over time. Remember that there are going to be highs and lows and twists and turns. And you're practicing this now as an organization.
Yeah, and I think if you give yourself, if you say, I'll call you this morning or I'll call you by 11, most of the time your conscience will feel bad if you don't do it. So you get into the practice of doing it.
Yeah, that's what we said on the earlier slide. Anytime you break your promise or agreement to yourself, you have the experience of being a smaller person. Absolutely. And Eleanor, what you'll find as an organization and as an individual is you'll start to be more responsible for the words that come out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I might say to John, or John says to me, John will ask me to get him X, Y, and Z, and I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm driving my car right now. I promised to get back to you by noon to give you a promise by when I'll have it done, John. So then that makes it clear because I'm driving and I don't have it in existence. I'm making a promise by when I'm going to make the promise. Is that useful, Eleanor, as you were looking at what your customer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and great. Thank you for that on the court example. All right, so what we said here, we're going to take some sharing here in a moment. We said that, you know, this conversation about integrity, it may get a little messy. It may not fit with what you already think or believe, and it may provoke a response that you do not expect. So I'm going to come off screen share and like to hear from people, particularly people we haven't heard from yet. What are you seeing about your own integrity? Because I asked you at the top of this to make a note where you're not at full power. What are you getting for yourself? What are you, any yeah buts about this? Any how abouts about this?
I can use my health and well-being as an example.
Okay.
This is Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you.
So, you know, the past 2 years, I made eating healthy and looking after myself a huge priority. And I would say in the last 3 months, I've really not been honoring that word to myself at all. And the biggest thing that you said that really hit me was the less whole and complete, the more fascinated I become with my own thoughts, which is a great example of me right now, because I think to myself, well, you know, when I was exercising, like just about every day, it didn't even seem like I thought about it. I just, when I had a spare moment, I would go to the gym. And now I think to myself, well, how come I went so much before? And, you know, what was I doing differently? Oh, it must have been this. It must have been because I wasn't in management then, so I didn't have as much on my mind. Like I can come up with every excuse in the book. But then again, now I relate to what we were talking. Now I'm just in the stands, which is where I am right now. You know, very much in the stands, fascinated with what I think the reasons are that I am not going to the gym 4 times a week anymore. And, you know, so that really struck me about the amount of time I spend thinking about it.
That's beautiful, Lisa. That is great. And you did a great job, a better job than I did when Eleanor asked me to explain that paragraph, that second bullet about the brain, how it will dynamically revise your past. that is an on-the-court example because you told yourself, oh, because I was in management, that's what's different. So you go back to the past to give yourself reasons and justifications. Brilliant, Lisa. Now, Lisa, now looking at what you're being caused in the matter of what you're being responsible for, you have an opportunity. You don't have to do anything. And you have an opportunity to declare, to actually say out loud in our listening, a new promise or something you're going to take on, or even, hey, by when I'll get back to you, if at all.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just sort of think of that paragraph about the whole and complete, like, you know, sort of overanalyzing everything. And when you overanalyze everything, you're really not doing anything about it. Again, you are sitting in the stands. You're not making on the court decisions like, okay, you know, Monday I'm going to get back at it, and this is what I'm going to do to get back at it, and, you know, that sort of thing.
Brilliant.
I'm not making commitment to myself by just thinking about how great I was, you know, 6 months ago.
Brilliant. Great.
Brian, it's Eleanor here again. I just want to just respond about that because I think one, life does change, and so maybe she doesn't have the time she used to have, as an example. So if she just decided to go once a week and not, you know, you tend to beat yourself up when you're not living up to your own expectations.
Got it. So now, Eleanor, if you watch, you just got in the stands right beside Lisa.
What? Why? Why do you say that? I don't know if I agree with you.
Okay, good. Great. Because you're talking, what you just said, in reality, out here, did that make any difference to the result of what Lisa's dealing with?
Well, maybe she needs to alter what she used to do. And so what's wrong with that?
Got it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what you're saying at all. What I'm pointing to is Lisa discovered for herself on this call something that was keeping her from actually being at full power regarding an area that she said she was out to cause a breakthrough in, which was her health and well-being. Are you with me so far, Eleanor?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lisa discovered that for herself, and she discovered that on this call.
Right.
Now, Lisa hasn't said it yet, but what it'll make it, and Lisa acknowledged that she's in the stands. She's been in the stands. So Lisa actually hasn't gotten herself on the court yet, and that's up to her. She could say something to get herself on the court.
It's not always that easy to get on the court.
I understand. Now you're saying that statement, it's not always easy to get on the court. Is that a statement from in the stands, or is that statement from on the court?
I might be on the stands, but nevertheless, it's still true.
You sound like me watching my hockey game. I'll tell you why they didn't win and why they do win, but my speaking makes no difference to the actual performance.
Okay.
What I'm asking you to look at, and what's great, Eleanor, is because we're all inside of it, and most people don't look at it. Most people that's the way life is. Brian, you're crazy.
Well, and that also probably brings into like the avoid looking bad and trying to look good. Like, you know, I could have said something totally different because it's not fun to admit that you're, you know, you feel like you're not looking after yourself properly, but, you know, I'm trying to avoid not looking bad and being honest with myself and saying, you know, instead of just pretending that, oh yeah, it'll be fine, I'll get back into it. But I have to make a more conscious effort. And what really struck me was how fascinated I have become with my inner thoughts. That is awesome. Exactly where I'm at right now.
Great. Now, Lisa, I'm clear, as someone you've allowed the privilege of coaching you, I'm clear that you discovered that for yourself. And you discovering that now you have, do you see that you now have an opening to take action that wasn't there before?
Yeah, I have, I guess on the court statement is I shouldn't say I think, is I am going to figure something out in the next week. And also with what Eleanor said, you know, sort of looking at how the way things are now and not thinking about the way things were, you know, 6 months ago or 2 years ago, maybe finding a balance again. I need to find a balance again.
Good one, Lisa. I like that.
Great. Great.
Thanks,
Lisa, us here in Winnipeg just want to say thank you too for sharing, because it just really hit home for us and helped us kind of have a bit of a breakthrough individually here.
Thank you.
And I know, you know, for ourselves, when you were talking, we were just, yeah, I'm just going to quit wasting the time thinking about it and just spend that time actually doing it, and then the problem is solved. So you kind of you really helped us, so thank you.
I really like your answer too.
Well, thanks, Eleanor.
Yeah, now the key is she came to the call, she took an area of her life, as each of you had the opportunity to do, and she looked and she discovered something from the distinctions, and she's applying it to her life. And when she shares that, Winnipeg gets it, Eleanor gets it, I get it, others get it. So we're encouraging you to continue to be authentic with one another. Here we're talking about Lisa's health and well-being. You can take any subject. Brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. Something else, Lisa? Okay. Eleanor, anything else for you on that?
No, I thought that went well.
Okay, great.
I'm glad Lisa came to that.
Yeah. Winnipeg, thank you for doing the looking as well and sharing, piping up like you did. Okay, who else? What else? What are you seeing for yourself regarding the conversation about integrity?
I had a situation just this past week that I had to speak with another broker about something that she thought should be, and I was a little hesitant if I should go and actually talk to her, but I did. But then I found myself, even that night after I went home, I felt bad for, you know, going and confronting her about it. But then I realized that it was something I had to do. I had to talk to her about it, and that I shouldn't be worried about looking bad in that situation. And that little voice really gets to you about those things. And I just really had to push it aside and realize this is, you know, what I have to do. And I just have to ignore that voice, not listen to it. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And what was your experience of yourself after you did take that action?
I felt better about it. I felt that I just need to be more confident with it, that was my decision to speak to her about it, and that I felt it was needed to be said, and I shouldn't be worried about what she thinks or what the other ones think about it.
Great. Really great. Thank you. Great work.
I think it's pretty neat too that you know, that's the difference between when you talk, okay, we're already pretty good at what we do, and the difference between high performance, right? So I'm assuming, Nadine, in that example, someone's not doing something or taking an action that they should. You know, that's all those little things I think that it takes from going from good to great. And you know, the example that always rings with me is like the difference in all the years that Tiger Woods won all the championships in golf, and the very small margin of difference is that he just putted a little bit better than everyone else. You know, and so it's just that little, so whether it's that extra step he took, or Nadine, you know, that person's probably going to perform or communicate or do that better. And I think that's the example. We just have to be conscious of it, as all those little things are the difference, you know, is just having that confidence to go and have that conversation.
Great, Gord. Yeah, you're right on. John? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
You guys, the guys in Kenora, there was quite a bit of talk at the strategy session about meetings and keeping things on track. And how's that going? Are you Are you maintaining things there the way you'd said?
I know for wrong way. I know for me personally, in the meetings, I mean, we're updating our meetings, and but for me personally, I mean, I'm looking at that list every day of our strategies and our deliverables that we have to come up with, and pushing to meet with people and set up meetings. And I met with Janice a couple of times. We moved the team thing, had a conversation with Lori and Sue yesterday. So we're more actively for sure communicating and driving those things. And I think that our department group has been unreal at sticking to those meetings and that level of communication. So Brianna, Jordan, and Marcia on some of those deliverables, but also something that comes to mind is Jerome, who, don't take offense, Jerome, but is not usually, doesn't think of the intangibles or kind of that self-awareness. I think he's just more self-aware, accountable to, and thinks a little bit differently now. And, Jerome even coming to me saying, geez, I think we're getting way more stuff done. We're way more efficient. We're actually getting stuff done. But for Jerome to come out of his way to notice that, and then to actually make a comment about it, because it was also made me feel really good that we made the right decision with the group and getting an engagement like this that was ongoing. So we continuously got better. So I think we've done a really good job. And I know myself, like every day it's on my mind, but it's so easy to come up with excuses where you say, well, the excuse that I had in my mind, that was, okay, Ryan quit, we can't get this done. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep the meeting with 6P and I'm going to move that brand stuff. But I had that excuse in my head already, and I was working towards how I was not going to get that done. And as it turns out, we're moving that piece still, because, when you were talking, I just kept thinking of Pat Hughes, Sean's dad's excuses are like assholes, everyone's got one. And but it made me think of it, because you can always come up with some reason, but you can always get it done if you really think of it. To your point in the example with Eleanor, is you can always get it done. And the idea of exercise for me, with Lisa's example, I know I'm a better person, less stressed, and more clear-minded if I get exercise and balance out life. So you think you can't get it done, but you're actually more productive when you do it. And just those examples. So I think directly towards the meetings, absolutely. Like, I think there's a resounding difference. Like, I just see us getting way more things done.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to what you're saying, there's about be the cause. Like when Ryan left, no one said, well, obviously we had the feeling, we might not be able to get things done, but the team turned into we're going to take responsibility for those items that aren't being handled anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like that full teamwork, or just being the cause, not only for yourselves, but as a team responsibility as well.
That's great. And you remember the ladder, the ladder of responsibility, where on the bottom, once you acknowledge, once you're aware of something, then normally it would be blame others, make excuses. So in that circumstance, that's exactly what would happen. But what you guys did was you acknowledged the reality, Ryan's not here. And then you decided to own it, and you took it on, and different people take pieces. And the next thing you know, you've made it happen. And that's the difference. That's the absolute perfect example of people taking responsibility, and just making it happen, even though the person who was ultimately responsible is no longer there. It doesn't matter. You guys can still find a way. That's great. In the meetings, now, I am assuming that part of it is because you've scheduled meetings, so you're actually having them. But what's happening inside the meetings that has them being more efficient and getting more things done?
That's, I think it really comes down to our committed speaking within those meetings. And then we're also holding each other accountable kind of when we're setting our objectives. And then so when we're ready for the next meeting, the following, especially within our 3-person group, like Jordan, Brianna, and I, we are collaborating, but then we're setting targets or tangibles then for next week's meeting. So it's not just in the stands discussions, but we're having some of those in the stand discussions to do some collaboration but then we're doing some committed thing. Okay, well, I'm going to take this way, I'm taking this way, and then the following week we can re-meet on those items, and then continue to move our items along kind of really effectively and efficiently. So that's been like one of the really great things with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm assuming that in the conversations, you're also listening a little differently to each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the commitment too, right? You know, for example, I called into the branch meeting because I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try to make it to those meetings, so I stick in and communicate at a better level and start to move those things around, start to make sure that we're communicating the challenges and that I'm understanding and hearing what everyone's saying, that I'm going to try to make all of those meetings. And so I called in on my drive and, you know, just even committed to the department managers, you know, this past week is wherever I am, even if I'm in Toronto, I'm still going to schedule, even in Toronto, whether it's from the hotel or whatever, I'm going to schedule to be at those specific meetings because it's important and vital to my role that I'm at those meetings. And, you know, not just an excuse, is that wherever you are, make sure to schedule. So it's, again, just that commitment. So just feeling like you're a better person, and that integrity piece really kind of rung through for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even being late. And
I noticed with you. Yeah, you definitely apologize to me when you're late, and that's for a meeting. That's very much appreciated because everybody tries to be on time. So when it makes that boom, your CEO apologizing for being late, and it makes just everybody a little more accountable.
Yeah, I'm finding with the integrity piece too, you're changing some of your behaviors. So like for myself, like you've got your deadlines and you got your due dates, but your behavior shifts too, because not that you're planning for some of these unexpected, but you're not allowing yourself to use those as an excuse anymore. So like if the kid's all of a sudden are sick, I can't come into the office, I can't continue to work through on a project that I'm on. Well, you're being a little bit more conscious of your time management beforehand, so you're not leaving things for those last minutes. You're not really pushing on the deadlines. That you're kind of managing yourself a little bit, so you are shifting some of your behaviors because you're not allowing yourself to rely on excuses to adjust deadlines or to push things.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. Sounds like things are moving in the right direction.
Gord, I also think it's been really good too when I need to talk to you lately. I'll you know, sort of text you and say, I need to talk to you today or tomorrow, you know, what works better. And we actually set up a meeting in our calendars, and then we know that that time is put aside for whether it's 15 minutes or sometimes it ends up being an hour. We've talked and I got off my chest what I need to, and it's better than just saying I need to talk to you in the next, you know, couple of days, and then it ends up turning into a week or 2 weeks, and, you know, kind of making excuses why we can never touch base.
Yeah, it's sadly, but I literally have started to make that a habit of just scheduling, you know, even if it's a quick phone call, I actually have to schedule it now. But because you're always chasing your tail, and then it's on your mind all the time. So, no, I've definitely found some more effective ways to try to communicate, and that's definitely one of them. And I like that when people are doing that more often now, is that, hey, what can you come see me or let me know, and then I can say, yeah, this time. But yeah, it's been really effective for sure.
And discussing tools. This is what I'm using to help me plan my day. Would you like to use this? Like, oh my God, yes. And any little tool that we can to help each other, that is fantastic.
Yeah. Like even for myself, I've kind of made the calendar schedule my boss, even in my personal life. Like, for example, one of the integrity components I had, sorry, I got tired of moving the camera back and forth, but one of the integrity components I had from January was obviously helping around the house a little bit more. And so, you know, not waiting for Sam to say, you know, could you clean the bathroom? Like, so I've actually scheduled in every Thursday night I clean the bathroom. So, I mean, I missed it last night, so I'm doing it tonight. But it's just trying to make the calendar my boss or schedule. So like, you know, if I'm trying to make plans on Thursday night, I go, yeah, well, I have to do this first. You know, it's just part of my routine now.
That's great. That's really awesome, Jordan. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. You guys are making some real steps forward. Winnipeg, anything else from Winnipeg? Derek and team, Nicole, Tina, you guys are.
I was just going to say, Jordan, you can forget the calendar, just get a cleaning lady.
You didn't get it.
No, I think they will.
I don't think you got it.
Oh, we got it. We all laughed here. You know, we tried that. Sam likes to clean before the cleaning lady comes over. That's a whole other thing, though.
Jordan, you take cleaning up after you don't keep your word to a whole new level. Anybody else? Any other questions? Eleanor, anything you can't be completely settled? No? All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for providing us with some insight into where you're headed with, so many of these different distinctions and what you're doing with them. It's really great to see, and it's exciting to be together with you guys and seeing it working. And we've got more to do in the future, so we're looking forward to that too. Brian?
Yeah, Sharon, what's there for you? What are you getting for yourself out of the call, or what do you want to share with us?
I think, well, I was concentrating on health and wellness as well. Everything Lisa said sort of was the same thing. I guess it's, just not over promising things. If you you have to balance everything. So try not to over promise, to be, so you can keep your word.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. Okay. Well, I want to come back to share my screen here. So we have, do you see practices webinar 2 there, John?
I do.
Okay. So we want to set you up. Again, it's a journey, and we're taking some distinctions and we're continuing to provide them to you so you can practice them. Without practice, none of this will make any difference. We're focusing on performance, ultimately on business results. So out of our webinar call today, and John will send this to you so you'll have it, we're giving you 2 practices that we're requesting you take on. Practice number 1, observe yourself in relationship to promises and promising. What happens to you when you don't keep a promise? How do you react? What do you do, or what do you avoid? Let me just say a little something about that. This first promise, just notice how you are notice what's going on over here with you. John and I were just off site with another client for the past 3 days. And there's something that I told John after day 1 that I would get him by day 2. I told him I would go on our server and I'd find this document that we could give to the client. Now, I forgot about it. I didn't write it down. I didn't put it in existence at all. Then when I saw John the next morning, and he didn't bring it to me, but what I observed with myself is I noticed, I went to John and I said, John, I didn't get that document for you. And then I noticed afterwards that I was telling him, and then I was walking away from him. So I told him I didn't get it, and then I was walking away talking about it over my shoulder. So I wasn't authentically listening and being present with John as I told him that. So why am I sharing that with you? That's what I would get from taking on practice number 1. All we're asking you to do with practice number 1 is observe yourself in relationship to promises and promising. Notice what you're going to say. Notice what you won't say. Notice what happens if you don't keep a promise. Notice how you react. Notice what you do. Notice what you avoid. Have that be real for yourself. Practice number 2, identify and select a person with whom you have a broken promise or agreement. With that person, clean up the mess that you've made by breaking that promise or agreement. Share with that person that you select what you didn't do, the impact on not doing it and not saying anything, and the possibility or the new future you're now inventing with them. Okay? So that could be as simple as Jordan going back and, cleaning up with Sam. I told you I was going to clean the bathroom last night, and I'm coming to you, and I didn't do it. or it could be with a broker, it could be with a customer, it could be with a colleague. Look to where you have a broken agreement, where you have a broken promise, and clean it up with them. And then we're asking that you come back to our next session and that you're prepared to share what you're discovering for yourself from participating in this engagement. And as a review of what we've covered so far on this call, we covered the key distinctions from webinar number 1. We talked to you about where we're at and where we're going, and we said that this may get messy. We covered and reminded you and deepened the distinction integrity. Without integrity, nothing works. And we're leaving you with things to practice. And then a reminder of our next sessions. We'll see you physically on April 30th and May 1st at our offsite. And then the strategic discovery sessions that John's leading. Next one is April 2, the virtual work session. And that's what's next. So John, closing comments or anything else you want to hear from them or anything else anyone has?
Anything from anybody there?
Was this call of value? Was it a waste of time for you? How are you leaving the call? If 1 or 2 people want to say, you can say anything to us.
It was great.
Okay.
It's Eleanor. I think we do have to hear it again and again and kind of review every time. And I still really like it when we review what we've already covered. So we get a refresher almost every time of what we had done last time. I like that.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any way we can get a print off of the slides that you provide so that we can review them when we're not together? Like the slides that you put up, sometimes I'm writing things down, but I would love a copy so that when I, a week from now when I try to remember what I said or what I was supposed to do, I have it.
I'll let Brian answer that.
No. And deliberately, Lisa, we don't do that because we don't want it to fall into it being more information. So we deliberately don't give out the slides from that perspective. And there's something you got. You demonstrated on this call. You looked, you discovered newly, and that's what it really is all about. And Lisa and everyone, you get stopped or stuck, you just pick up the phone. You call John or myself, okay? We're available for you for coaching, okay? Thank you. Gord or Marcia, anything from you before we, or Gary, anything for you before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I thought that was a good call. I imagine there was some really good stuff we missed at the beginning. I apologize for that, but no, I thought that was good.
Great, Gary.
We thought the meeting was at 1:30 and we both thought that.
Oh, got it.
And we talked ourselves into it even.
Okay.
Early you weren't.
Yeah. I was 4 minutes early in my mind. So anyway, I apologize for that to everyone.
Thank you. All right, well, it's exactly the time we had scheduled for the call to end. And thank you all. Thank you for continuing to participate. We'll see you. Bye.
Being here, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You able to stop the recording as well, John, or you want me to dial back in?